Yeah, fighters. We got a little bonus here for you guys for the video portion. We're just warming up right here. This is from the first HIIT session on Saturday, 4/11. This is our 10 a.m. session. I like using shadow boxing and even sometimes other skill-specific movements as a mobility as well as dynamic stretch combo when we're short for time. This was a 30-minute session, so don't have the same typical time to warm up as I normally like. So kind of combining shadow boxing here to increase heart rate while also simultaneously getting some mobility. It's not perfect, but I think it was just an option I wanted to show. If we're short on time, it's a great way to combine warm-up as well as mobility. And also you'll notice I kind of check in on everybody. So from time to time, I'll kind of cut in and out and all that fun stuff. So the workout here throughout that you guys are going to see is we did two things. First, we did 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off intervals. Once the shadow boxing and dynamic stretching was over, we actually do dynamic stretching after this as well. I just want you guys to see both options. So again, using this to increase heart rate, getting warm, and then we'll actually do a full dynamic stretch. But if you're short on time, you can kind of use this as well. And then we do Tabata style rounds as well, but first it's 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for a full cycle of 10 minutes. Got this from Coach Phil DeRue, a variation of the alactic buffering workout variation. So you're working hard for 30 seconds, and then you're going to do a 30-second isometric hold specific to the muscle group that you were working. So here we start with upper body in boxing. So then we do some high plank holds. The idea here is to increase your body's efficiency at buffering the byproducts produced from your muscles. And then also in the podcast, you guys are going to hear me talk about some other benefits to traditional HIIT training with metabolic boosting and with performance and speed and all these other things. So that's that. And then we'll also do Tabata style rounds where it'll be 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, doing lower body and similar approach of 20 seconds doing a speed skill movement, lower body, so kicks, knees, checks, teeps, variations off that, and then 10 seconds off, and then going with a 10-second pulsing squat or pulsing lunge, followed by 10 seconds off, and then repeating. It's not exactly perfect for the alactic buffering workout, but I wanted to show you guys the Tabata version of doing that while also simultaneously having that variety in there. So I just kind of wanted to break that down a little bit for you guys. This is just some bonus audio I wanted to add over so you guys can enjoy the workout. And while the workout's happening, you'll also hear the podcast going. So I thought it would be a nice, fun combo of having both. Also, you can check out in the details below. I'll add a bonus to the actual exercise selections that I like for body-weighted exercises. That's going to be in our vault. So I'll link to that, and that'll kind of take you guys over. If you don't have access to the vault, for all of April of 2020, I'm giving you guys a promo code coronavirus that gives you access to the fitness and nutrition vault, so you can get access to the bonus content as well. And then starting in May, most likely, I'll probably start getting things changed a little bit with how the vault's breaking down and what's access to and all that good stuff. So without further ado, coming up will be the podcast now. And then as a bonus at the end, I'm going to save about probably like 5 or 10 minutes doing a breakdown of a second workout I did at 2 o'clock that's more of a grappling themed. This one's more of a striking themed because of the people that were in class. So you kind of have that option. Now the HIIT training is still a concept that we worked in, but I applied it with sport-specific movements, which pros and cons are there. And then at the end of this video, you'll see grappling variations. They're not specific, all of them, to grappling. A lot of them are just core movements in general, but I think they apply all to grappling as well. So you guys will see that in the last 5 or 10 minutes as well. So I hope you guys enjoy. Let's jump into the podcast, and at the end, I'll have some more bonus stuff for you guys. Yeah, fighters, what's going on, y'all? Coach Mike here with another episode of the Life of a Fighter podcast. Before we jump into today's episode talking about HIIT training or high-intensity interval training, I just wanted to mention that this episode, just like every episode, is brought to you by our shop. You can go to lifeofafighter.com/shop. We have all of our awesome ebooks, products, services. Again, our two most popular is our Fitness Vault and our Pro Coach program. Especially now with everything going on with coronavirus and all those situations, I have a promo code coronavirus that's going to be good until the end of April for 2020 that offers up all those services that you can see on the shop for free. I just wanted to kind of give back and have a resource for you guys and help support. I know it's a challenging time, not just financially, but whether it's physically, emotionally, or a combination of all the above, especially with stress and all those things. So I figured this way I could try and help give back. Also, what's not on the shop, but something now we're going to start to incorporate that you'll see or you can reach out for is virtual sessions. Especially with Zoom and everything blowing up, we're getting more and more acclimated. And I think people are getting more into the idea of utilizing this. So I wanted to offer that up as well. So you can get private training sessions with me and utilize them via Zoom. We're also going to start using some group classes on Saturdays. I'm going to be doing a free group class for all of April at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's free and available to everybody. If you guys want to do private training virtually, let me know. We can work on that. I've got some updated pricing, so let me know, as well as if you want to do some small group, or we've partnered up, for example, with the Allen team. Shout out to the Allen team here in Asheville. They actually were the ones that were able to get our house, or allow me to buy the house with me and Ash. That was really exciting. So they've kind of done a corporate partnership with us. We're offering up those classes for their team. So if you guys are interested in things like that, or doing small group or anything like that, let me know. We can figure it out. You can reach out to me via lifeofafighter@gmail.com, info@lifeofafighter.com, whichever you prefer. Again, social media, the website, however you want to get a hold of me. If you have questions, just let us know. And if there's anything I can do, even if you guys just need to chat or kind of mental health side of things, work on it, let me know. I'm more than happy to help however I can. And without further ado, let's jump on into the podcast, y'all. So today we're covering HIIT. And it's actually a perfect theme because I'm recording this on Saturday in between my 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Classes. And the theme of today was HIIT, high intensity interval training. The first class, we actually specifically applied it to kickboxing. And that's actually even something we covered with the Allen team with their first session yesterday, incorporating that HIIT training. I'm a big fan of it for a multitude of reasons. I'll kind of jump into it in a bit here. But I just wanted to kind of highlight that. And I think it's beneficial because everyone's talking about HIIT training and it's a common topic that comes up. But I thought it would be helpful I get questions on what is that? How do I do that? So I wanted to kind of do a general overview of what it is, and then also some basic ways to apply it, and then dive into the more specifics. If you guys want to see, I'm actually recording all of our group classes on Saturdays now to build into our library. It's a part of our fitness vault. So if you guys want to see them, I'll have a link below that you guys can check out. And you can, again, use the promo code, sign up for the fitness vault. You get free access to it during this time. And yeah, I think it'll be valuable for you guys, and I hope it helps. So the first thing is, when we look at interval training, what is interval training? So interval training involves performing repeated exercises at either set distances or times. So for example, let's pick one exercise. I'm going to just say squats, just because I think it's one of the most foundational body-weighted movements that we can do, especially with those lacking equipment right now. There's so many variations we can build off that. So let's say I'm going to do squats. I can do them for a minute on and a minute off, and repeat that cycle for any given amount of rounds and repetitions. And this is, you can apply it to so many different things, and that's what we'll go into. And I'm just going to kind of pause for a second and say, I'm going over some information that I'm pulling and referencing from the International Sports Science Association and one of my textbooks I got with my strength conditioning certification. I'm a big fan of the ISSA. They're not the end-all be-all, but I think they're a pretty good standard. Also, the NSCA is a gold standard as well, and a lot of this kind of matches up based on the certificate that my CSCS I got with them. Honestly, I loaned out my textbook, so otherwise I'd be using that one. But I do like the ISSA one as well. So that's why I'm kind of referencing that in case you guys are curious where I'm getting that info from. So again, kind of covered HIIT training. Cool. We know what it is now. It's going to be given periods of time. Let's say, again, I actually like more even than a minute and a minute. I like 30 and 30. So 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. So we're going to do squats for 30 seconds. Then we're going to rest 30 seconds. And we're going to repeat that. And I always start with 10 rounds. It's kind of like a good middle ground. And you'll notice specifically with just general fitness, there's a wide spectrum of fitness, meaning you might be in great shape. So you might be able to push that and go 30 rounds instead of just 10. Or you might say, hey, I'm new to this. I don't feel comfortable with that. Hey, let's do 5 rounds. So that can end up being, 5 minutes. Or again, you can change the amount of workload and the rest load to kind of fit where you're at. I think 30 to 60 seconds is that good middle ground. And there's kind of 3 key benefits that I wanted to highlight that I think the book talks about that I also agree with that I wanted to mention to you guys. So the first one is it helps the body move at a faster speed by training the nervous system to react quicker. Fancy, what that means is when you are moving, it's not just your actual muscles that have to perform the movement. Your muscles are communicating and back and forth with your brain. So the brain, the neurotransmitters, and all those connections going from your brain to your muscles and back up have to work together. So if you train slow, your brain is being conditioned to train slow. You need to be able to train your brain with communicating to your muscles at the speed you want to perform. So for sports especially, this is huge. And there's a lot of variations. And even we had performance coach Phil DeRue on a previous podcast. We've had him on too, also with Dr. Tony Ricci. We've had him on before, and a lot of great performance coaches talking about all these different aspects to training. And it doesn't mean speed training is the only training. There is times where slow is going to have a benefit, especially on eccentric movements, the lowering phase of a movement, especially for hypertrophy purposes and other variations to be able to engage different things that we're looking for. But specifically, again, it's going to allow us to move faster because not just muscle adaptation, but also the brain and neurotransmitter stimulation, all the pathways that have to work. So that's the first one. Second one, increases the heart's ability to pump blood. Sounds pretty good, right? So if my body has to work harder, my heart is going to be conditioned as a muscle to have to keep up with that and ultimately become more efficient so that my body can not only produce more blood, but also oxygen and also byproducts that are going out from that and being pulled back in, as well as going to become more efficient. So what I mean is not just the oxygen going out, but also byproducts coming back and have to be filtered out are going to become more efficient as a process. Then 3, helps cells to cope with rapid metabolism. So again, just like the rest of what we were just talking about, our body, our blood, our cells have to become adapted to whatever conditions and environment we want to put them in. So if we all of a sudden go really hard and do that quick interval, they're not conditioned for it. They're not going to be able to keep up for a variety of reasons. So by being able to execute these workouts, you're going to condition not just your muscles, but this on the cellular level, your cell's ability to keep up and process and maintain and go and evolve, basically. Maybe evolve is not the right word, but to progress would be a better way to put it. And that's one of the key reasons. And then we're going to dive into some more kind of fun benefits. But I think especially, so there's 2 kind of camps here I think that really become important is the general fitness enthusiast as well as the sports and athletic endeavor and individual. So if you're trying to increase performance, this falls in that category, as well as if you're also just trying to improve your general fitness and whether it's body composition, also your brain. There's a lot of variation there that benefits your brain. And also when I think of it as a time saver too. So I think of corporate professionals, I think of students, I think of, anyone that's everyone that's home right now. If you have kids, you may not have a large window of time. So if you have 10 minutes, even research and studies will show that 12 minutes for interval training can be the minimum threshold you need to break to have a metabolic boost, not just for the time of the workout, but for up to 48 hours afterwards. So if I do a 12-minute interval cycle of 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and I hit the right high intensity and low intensity ranges, and I do that for 12 minutes, my metabolism can there be benefited for 48 hours after that workout versus if I'm doing a slow, steady state cardio session. There's not anything wrong with that either. There's different benefits and different purposes. But if I'm just going out for a run at a steady state or I'm going for a walk, the second I stop moving or shortly thereafter, my body is going to come back down from that metabolic boost. It's not going to maintain it. However, these intervals are going to maintain that metabolic boost. And even that's what we're talking about in point number 3, helps cells to cope with that rapid metabolism. All right, so now we kind of have an idea of who it benefits, what it can do. We'll dive into, I think, the different varieties of how we can apply the variables and what variables to play with, and then who it can benefit and dive a little bit deeper there. So kind of 4 components to the interval training is 1, going to be either distance or time, 2, repetitions, 3, the intensity, 4, the rest. So first, distance or time. What do I mean by that? So if we're thinking about running, for example, let's use that. That's a great way to think of distance, or cycling or any variation of that. Distance is going to be, again, if we're doing 100 meters, a mile, whatever. Or if you don't want to track it with distance, if you want to stay in place, for example, like right now I'm in my garage and like my fitness area now, that you guys are actually going to see over time in videos and stuff that I'm putting out. You're going to see it evolve. It's going to be really cool. I'm excited to build with more equipment and things in here. So I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to stay here in place, and I don't have a treadmill or anything like that. So let's say I'm using my jump rope. So instead of measuring by distance, I can measure by time, like I was mentioning before. So 30 seconds of work followed by 30 seconds of rest. And we could do the same thing with distance, where I'm going to do a quarter mile high pace sprint, quote unquote. And I think even a quarter mile is tough to say sprint because that's a pretty long time. Let's say, 100 meters or 10 meters or any variation of that. You can sprint that period of time, and then you can either have a set rest period or you could walk that equivalent amount of time. So if I sprint 100 meters, I'm going to then walk 100 meters and repeat that process. Or I'm going to sprint 100 meters, rest 1 minute or rest 2 minutes, whatever variation that you're going to work. And part of these components is how we can change them. And this is where I think it becomes fun, is as you increase the intensity. So we talked about distance and time. That's kind of also related to point number 3 of intensity. So as you increase intensity, so as I'm sprinting closer and closer to my 100% max, or I'm pushing the pace closer to my 100% max, I need to have a longer rest period, typically. So if I'm going for a 100-meter sprint, that may take me, 15 seconds. Let's call it actually let's call it 40-yard dash. That's a good reference point because that's something we see a lot in sports. 40-yard dash between 4 and 6 seconds, depending on where you're at in your level and your work capacity, all that fun stuff. So 4 to 6 seconds. I'm obviously not going to rest 4 and 6 seconds and do that again at my max capacity. I'm going to run a 46-second 40. And I'm going to rest maybe 2 to 5 minutes and then repeat that cycle. So that's where, again, distance or time comes in. Repetitions is talking about how many times am I going to perform these sprints. And again, that has to play with the intensity and the rest. So as the intensity goes up, your repetitions more than likely is going to go in the inverse direction of going down. So I'm not going to perform 20 100% max 40-yard sprints. That's not going to be beneficial because of, again, the neurological stimulus it provides and the muscular stimulus it provides. You may be able to do that even for one workout. More than likely you won't. Not at 100% capacity with a functional application that'll carry over. But if you do that multiple times, especially throughout the week, you're going to burn yourself out and you're going to damage your body. So that's a really important part. As the intensity goes up, our reps should go down as well as our rest period should go up. So I'll give you another example. So I'm going to do like what I like is doing, again, take 6 to 12 seconds, 100% max sprint. We're going to take 1 to 3 minutes to rest. And then I'm only going to do that maybe 4 to 5, 6 repetitions and cycles. So that, again, when we look at the total time, it may not hit 12 minutes. Actually, let's say. So if I'm doing 10 seconds, rest 2 minutes, let's call that 210 times 5. We're right at about that 10 minutes. We're kind of flirting with that metabolic benefit boost. And there's different reasons to do these interval training sessions. And they may not always have the same benefit depending on what you're doing. So if you're doing it for the metabolic boost specifically, you may want to alter your approach and not go to 100% max because you may not be able to maintain and hit as many reps to maintain that metabolic benefit. However, if you're doing it for performance as an athlete, whether it's a fighter, a power lifter, a football player, soccer, whatever, cyclist, runner, swimmer, whatever have you, that's where you have to look at why you're doing it, and that alters and impacts. And that's where you may want to go higher on the intensity and say, all right, I'm not going to get the same metabolic boost, lower the total time and the reps that we're going to hit. Or you can find a middle ground. Maybe I'll do 70%. And that's what I think a lot, what I like with boxers is doing about, 60 to 80% max effort. But for 30 seconds, even less, maybe we go anywhere from 8 to 30 seconds, and then we rest for, 50 seconds, 30 to 50 seconds, somewhere in that window, and then repeat that cycle. And I like to match it to at least 10 minutes or to the equivalent of how long the fight's going to be. And a lot of times for especially the amateurs out there, your fights are going to be 2 to 3 minutes, 3 rounds, right? So if 2 minutes, let's call it 2 minutes for easy math. 2 minutes with a 1 minute rest in between, that's 3 minutes times 3 rounds. That's 9 minutes of total action. You don't need to be performing 40 minutes of super high intensity effort because that's not realistic to your application right now. Now, I understand you may be saying, hey, Mike, well, I want to build an aerobic foundation. That's great. Intensity training is not for that. You can use steady state cardio to build an aerobic foundation and have your endurance and work on other areas. And then as it gets time to prepare for the fight, and that's what I think even with Phil alludes to, what I like about how he applies his condensed conjugate method is he's also getting a GPP, general physical preparedness, outside of camp and keeping a certain level of foundation. But then when it's time to get into fight camp, he's only working with his guys maybe a couple times a week instead of 4 to 5 times a week like we'd like to see. So maybe 2-3 sessions a week. You have to now have max effort, dynamic effort, and vary and flip those days. So you have to mix it all together. However, that's where you have to, and that's why I think having a coach is huge, knowing how to apply these things. But again, I'm getting into the woods a bit, and I apologize. So knowing that as my effort goes up, my intensity goes up, I need to inversely have my repetitions and rounds go down, okay? And then again, play with the rest period. So that's long-winded. I spent a little bit more time on that than I wanted to, because I wanted to dive into, how we can apply these for different disciplines, whether it's running, swimming, cycling, and other sports. But the general principle applies, where find the relevant skill or kind of competition performance metric you're looking at. So whether you're a 100-meter sprinter versus a swimmer that's going to be going for 1,600 meters, or if you're a cyclist that has 20 miles of a ride ahead of you, we can play with those intervals throughout those different given times. And or for sports, for a boxer, for a tennis player, for a football player, soccer player, we can play with those and pick specific windows of time and efforts that you have to work. So for example, even within football, a running back is going to have to perform differently than a lineman versus a wide receiver. So we want to also keep that in mind. And then I think the biggest thing I wanted to take time to talk about, because most people like to apply HIIT training on their own to weight loss and fitness. Most of the time, if you're applying HIIT training with athletic performance, you usually have a strength coach, and I'm hoping you have a coach. And if not, reach out to me, or if you'd want one, reach out to us. We'll put you in touch with either one of our coaches or the right people outside of our network. Because I think that's really important, and it's hard to, just do your own guidance here. Like I have my own coaches and I'm retired, right? I'm not even a professional anymore. I've shut that down. I'm retired, but I still have my own coaches that I like to just not have that peace of mind knowing someone else is handling my program. I can just show up and crush it. So for the fitness side of it, especially with weight loss, that's where a lot of people like to apply it. There's kind of these two camps of slow, steady state's better. And where this originally comes from is a Scandinavian study that was conducted in the 1960s showed the body used more fat when exercising in the slow, steady state. So a lot of people interpreted that, okay, slow, steady state cardio is better for me because I'm burning more fat. Here's kind of, I think, the truth behind that, and sometimes it can get misinterpreted. Or my kind of breakdown of what that means is if I'm going for, let's say, again, I'm going to use a run. I'm going for a nice, slow, steady state run. I'm running 3 miles. Let's say I'm running at a 10-minute pace because I'm not really trying to kill myself or anything like that. So it takes 30 minutes. Got that 30-minute workout. Within a couple minutes of stopping that run, your metabolism comes back down. So you burn maybe 300 to 400 calories, and then after that, you're burning your regular rate. You haven't impacted your metabolic system enough to keep your rate higher. Now, if I do that same time frame, 30 minutes, but I do 1 minute on of 60 to 80% of my max effort, 1 minute off with a rest period, and I repeat that for 30 rounds, for 15 rounds, because that would be 2 minutes for the on-off. So for 15 rounds, that's 30 minutes of work. Now my metabolic system has been challenged enough to potentially increase itself for 48 hours. So not only when I stop that workout, I'm still burning calories. While I'm sleeping, I'm burning more calories than I normally would. While I'm eating breakfast the next day, I'm potentially burning more calories than I would up to 48 hours after that workout. So I think, again, from a time efficiency standpoint, that's why it's such a popular and valuable kind of asset to have in your toolbox, because you can say, I'm going to work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and your metabolism is going to be boosted throughout the entire week, except maybe Sunday. And again, it varies depending on where you're at, how your body responds. Everybody's slightly different, so there's not a guarantee that you only need to work out 3 times a week to have that metabolic boost. But that's what I think. If you have, that's what I tell even, whether it's new parents or people that are short on time, corporate professionals in that genre, is give me 20 minutes. If you give me 20 minutes, even 15 minutes, actually technically even 12 minutes from the research and the studies, and students as well. If you tell me you don't have 12 minutes in your day, let's call 20 minutes with a warm up and a cool down, I think you're full of shit. I think you can find 20 minutes. I think you can, spend less time on your phone. I think you can carve out those 20 minutes. And I think it's, excuse me, I think it's important because people say, I'd rather spend that time with my family, or I'd rather spend, and I think I heard this point actually from Grant Cardone in a financial book he has talking about sales and other things. I think it applies here with fitness and your health. If you're not willing to invest in your health, you're hurting yourself in the long run, because I think your health is your best health insurance, and ensuring that you're healthy is the best way to spend time with your family, because guess what? You're going to add potentially time to the end of your life. And even if you're not technically adding time, I don't think that's necessarily fair to say, you're saving yourself potential other chronic conditions or mortality rates that you could be suffering if you don't do these kind of investments into yourself. And it doesn't have to be high intensity training. It could be slow, steady state. Hey, invest in yourself. It doesn't have to be this. But if you tell me you don't have the time, I think you're full of shit. So that's ultimately where I'm coming from and why I think that. So slow, steady state is great. Don't get me wrong. I do it as well. I think it's a great way to burn more fat, potentially during the exercise. But I think for the most bang for your buck, HIIT training is where it's at. The other caveat to that, I think, is, and even in the book it says, the kind of quote unquote rule. I don't think there's anything for rules per se, but I think their interpretation of that is max 3 times a week. So you're not burning yourself out, because there is a neurological impact. There is a muscular impact. Don't do them back-to-back days either. Give yourself at least a 24-hour window of rest in between, because you're getting that metabolic boost and that benefit. Now, that doesn't mean you can't weight train, or you can't do other steady state things, or you can't do other activities, or you can't do your skill specifics, or you can't go, like, I'm going to take one of our fighters, for example. We're not going to go to practice. We're just not going to do the same HIIT training Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's going to burn them out real bad. So we're going to have these ebbs and flows. And that's what I like about Coach Phil's performances, the dynamics of max effort, dynamic effort, how they flip, how he finds the balance, how he's communicating, and how that's even what we do here is we communicate with not just as the performance coach, but I'm fortunate enough in my camp, I'm the performance coach and the skill coach for at least the striking side. And I also communicate with our other skill coaches like Coach Phil, Coach Alex, Coach Jesse. And then for our grapplers, Coach Brian, Coach Johnny, Coach JD, Coach Jen, Coach Mike, we're all communicating so that we can understand the skill side of things and the performance side of things. So that's kind of my 2 cents on finding out balance. And that's where I think the most bang for your buck and benefit comes from. There's so much more I could say, but we're starting to get to that window of time where I know you guys start to kind of lose a bit of interest here. We kind of break it up. So maybe I'll circle back around. If you guys are interested, and I can break this down a little bit more. But again, the key takeaways to me is HIIT training is great for your metabolism as well as your speed and performance. Also great for your brain. And while we're building those neural pathways and connections, we can also benefit from the time factor. So you have a short window of time, give yourself at least 12 minutes. 12 minutes is the minimum amount of time studies have shown that you need to do to actually have a metabolic benefit for multiple hours after the workout. And then again, you can use almost any exercise, whether it's a skill-specific thing, punch outs for a boxer, swimming for a swimmer, running for a runner. And you can also I like to actually do a combination of both skill-specific things where applicable and where appropriate. We're not going to overtrain, because there is a risk of overtraining the same movements, especially for a boxer. You're constantly in that kyphotic position. And we talked about that with Phil, right? Where your shoulders are rounded forward, your back is hunched over. That's kyphotic positioning. Or again, we're having our anterior pelvic tilt. So, that Kim Kardashian look where your butt's kind of sticking out, the top of your hips are flexed forward or over-exaggerated, tilted forward. By doing movements that keep you in that same position, you're going to build yourself up for failure and hurt yourself potentially in the long run. So finding balancing movements too is important. And again, this gets into the woods a little bit, where I think it's important to have a coach, because they can really assess where you're at and have the guidance to get you in the right balance. But finding that balance, you can do sport-specific things or general fitness-specific or non-specific. And again, keep in mind that those 4 variables you have to play with. It's distance or time. It's your repetitions, the intensity, and the rest. So as intensity goes up, your rest has to go up. The repetitions should go down, okay? And then vice versa. So if your intensity goes down, your repetitions can go up and your rest can go down. So that's a fun variable to play with as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, I appreciate you guys. If you haven't checked out our vault, definitely. I'm such a kind of big fan of it, even myself, because there's so much value in there. Especially for right now, we have our cheapest program is $25 a month. And for $25, you have over 80 ebooks. You have all of our content, literally over 400 articles, videos, and podcasts that I've done over the last 5 years. You have access to it, as well as our .fit app, where I do all of our programming for my clients, where you're going to have not just the workout programming, but also the nutrition side as well. You can log your food, look at your macros, log your water, all that fun stuff, even track sleep. So I think that's kind of such the biggest thing. And also for the pro coaching program, that's another one I'm really heavy on because I think it's so much value as far as you get me and our other coaches customly creating your program while you also have access to the Fitness Vault. And on top of that, I'm really excited. We added our Facebook private group. So we come into a community. We're going to chat. We're going to have more of these live videos and private access and all those fun videos. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And also all of April, I'm not putting anything locked away in the vault, but what I'm going to be putting out after April, and hopefully when things start to kind of calm down, we're going to have two versions of content. We're going to have the public version of podcast and content, and then we're going to have the vault version where it's going to dive even deeper. So this is, let's say, a 25, 30-minute episode. Probably the first 10, 15 minutes would be put out to the public, and then the rest of it would be locked away in the vault. Because I think there's enough value, honestly, I think the value I try and put out, especially when I have great guests on like Phil and Dr. Tony and all these other great guests and Dr. Herman that came on prior and all these great people we have in the knowledge I put out there. I think it's better free stuff than I even have in a lot of people's paid programs. So the free stuff I'm putting out, I want to also have a balance for those that have in the vault. I mean, I have even better stuff in the vault as well. So again, I appreciate you guys. Sorry that ran a little long. Hope you're staying well. If you need anything, let me know. I'm here. Ooh, bonus content. What's up, y'all? So you guys made it all the way through. Thanks for hanging in there. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, the workouts. I hope you guys are crushing it. So you'll notice here, again, going to sit outs. This is more of the, again, I don't want to say sport-specific things. These are just kind of still general physical preparedness-themed movements that can also be applied to grappling. I think they're also just beneficial in general martial arts and just core movements and fitness as well, but they definitely can be more so applied to the grappling world, so that's why I kind of combined this in here. And again, this cycle is 30 seconds of just straight up intervals of the movement and then 30 seconds rest. So there's not going to be that alactic buffering workout like we did earlier in the video or the Tabata style. This is just straight up 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, intervals, cycled through. I did this one for 12 minutes. Excuse me. And I went through a bunch of different variations. Some to increase heart rate. All of these are honestly like, and what you don't see in this, I cut out, is I'm also checking my pulse with my phone. There's some great free apps you can get to check your pulse, as well as the interval timers. There's some free ones up there or on the apps that you can check out. But I know that I'm keeping my heart rate above 70% of where I want it to be for my max threshold. So if you, an easy way to check it is, it's not perfect, but 220 minus your age, that's 100%, so you times it by 70. So for me, it's 220 minus 32, 188 times 70. And as long as I'm above that, I'm good. I'm kind of rocking out to music too. Don't mind me. I didn't want to cut out all. I thought some of the rest were kind of fun, so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. Also, I'll just point this out. I'm drinking water and coffee. I think I tried to cut my coffee off by the end of the workout, because what I try and do that I didn't mention earlier in the cool down, you guys saw earlier in the video, I went through a full cool down, is we want to switch over from fight or flight mode to rest and digest mode. So a sympathetic system, which is our fight or flight, to parasympathetic rest and digest. And the idea behind this is, if we have stimulants like caffeine, it's going to keep us in fight or flight mode or make it harder to get to rest and digest. And also the music we listen to, the activities that we do, that can also have an impact on that transition. Here you guys are going to notice I made a little bit more of an application to the actual grappling side of things with those kind of going from a turtle position, stand up. I applied a bit of this hybrid wrestling style, you could, especially for jiu-jitsu world, like you're probably going to want to flatten your feet so they're not going to grab under your ankles or anything like that, or your toes. I think especially those at Rogue, listen to Johnny and Brian on this one. This is just more for the fitness side of things, not for the actual technical side. And for anyone that's at another jiu-jitsu school, listen to your coaches. Again, I'm by no means going to say I'm an expert on the grappling side. I'm just applying the fitness that I find beneficial. And anyways, with all that being said, coffee during the workout, but I try and cap it towards the end. So when I do my cool down, like you guys saw earlier in the video, we're going to get into that rest and digest mode, which is huge for digesting foods, hence why it says rest and digest, as well as impacting your sleep and your mood and your recovery capabilities as well. So I think that's a really overlooked part. Is I talk about sleep, but I also think how you finish your workout. A lot of times people don't want to warm up or cool down. I think it's such a huge part that we're missing out on if you don't take advantage of it. So that's my 2 cents. Got about 6 or so minutes left in the video. I think we'll kind of go over a little bit. I'll give you guys some commentary on what I'm thinking here and just hopefully not bore the shit out of you guys. I'll give you some fun commentary. So again, keeping those 30 and 30. Now from here, we're doing our get-ups. My get-ups. Doing a little variation. There's a wide variety of these, of Turkish get-up variations and modified versions for whether it's jiu-jitsu or other sports. I'm using my hand up because I also wanted to show you guys, if you have a weight, this is where you can position yourself. And driving with my left, now it's going to be my right leg, really heel down, driving, hips up. And honestly, I'm kind of cheating here. My hips aren't staying completely neutral. I'd like it to even be more so. Matt, I always use this analogy. If you have guns on your hips, they're squared straight up. And in this analogy, I use towards the ceiling. We don't want them shifting off, in any direction. You want them straight up towards the ceiling as best you can. And there's times where we may modify it and want to actually have your hips turn for different reasons, like other bridges. But for this Turkish get-up, we want them pretty neutral and driving straight up and squared. Next up, let's see, what are we going into? I kind of forgot already. I think it's going to be a shrimp, right? Are we doing a shrimp? No. What are we going into? Sorry, y'all. I'll get you. Oh, yeah, we are doing a shrimp. Nope, I lied. All right, so doing some lateral revert. We can call them a bunch of different names, whether it's called the crucifix, or you can talk about, your lateral core work. The idea here is shoulders flat, and I bend my knees a little bit just because I have some lumbar issues, and if those of you have any bulging, herniated disc, things like that, you can flex at the knee as much as you need to for comfort, and also if your PT has recommended a certain position, stay in that position. And I find that beneficial, but also still it can be a killer core workout, and it's good just, again, beyond just jiu-jitsu. Here, what do I have up next? Let's see what we got here. So again, I keep referencing the sheet. The sheet's going to be made available for the Fitness Vault peeps, so check that out in the details below. I'll put up some links and some details there, or if you're watching this on the blog, it'll already be kind of set. You'll just link over to the Google Sheet. Oh, quadrupeds, right? So, I think this is an interesting one because I think sometimes these are called bear crawls or quadrupeds. I like to look at them as quadrupeds because to me, the way I learned bear crawls back in the day was when your hips are up, you're almost in this position right here. So I wanted to show both. To me, this is true bear crawls. I'm, by no means, the expert on what titles of movements are and what you want to call them, but maybe another quadruped variation, we could say. And the difference to me is these are going to be an easier version than the initial quadruped variations, where back is flat, really, really engaging the core and really having to focus on keeping that balance. Analogy I like that I saw a doctor in physical therapy, Brent Brookbush, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name, Brent, use a tennis ball to put on the lower back to make sure as you're moving and going through these movements, that ball shouldn't be coming off your back. So I think that's a really good cue. All right, next up, I think this is going to be actually going to our shrimps. And again, I incorporated some actual straight up just grappling jiu-jitsu movements, but I also think even outside of jiu-jitsu, this is just a great coordination movement and a great core movement. So I'm driving with my foot down, heel. I'm giving you guys a couple different angles, pivoting on the shoulder as well as the opposite leg. So I'm really kind of lifting my hips up. I've done this long enough where it kind of, I feel like you can almost be lazy with it a little bit. You can be more efficient. You don't have to get the same drive up and your hips off the ground. Like if I was, I guess, over exaggerating the movement, my hips would come off the ground more. I just have been doing it so much. I feel maybe it's more efficient, and maybe that's an excuse too for just being lazy. But I think that's an interesting point too. If you guys talk to the higher level guys, and I think there's this concept of you can be so much more efficient as you get more skilled that it can almost lead you to gaining not want to say lazy, but out of shape. You don't have to work as hard. Like the white belt is going to get a crazy workout compared to the black belt if their technique is everything. Because a white belt has no technique, so they have to use all like athleticism and muscle, and a black belt has all technique, and obviously they're going to be conditioned too, but you don't have to solely rely upon that. All right, so here, shout out to both Brian Ashland for this one and Phil DeRue. So, I've seen Brian call these the reverse angels or snow angels, and Phil DeRue, I don't actually even know name-wise, but I know this is a great mobility one he likes to use for his fighters, for shoulder mobility. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't use it as much just for the shoulder scapula activation mobility, more so just for the reverse angel of the core work. But, shoulders down and back, still having good mobility through the thoracic spine and stability. Through the shoulders, good mobility and stabilization at the thoracic spine and activation as well. So again, a lot of these can be applied to other aspects, not just grappling or not just striking, like earlier mentioned. And I think that if you are an athlete and you're not just a martial artist or vice versa, you can cross-train and utilize these skills. One thing I did talk to Phil DeRue about is sometimes we do get too sport-specific, and I think that's something you have to balance, is you can overtrain muscles. So if you're constantly shrimping in jiu-jitsu, you don't want to do just shrimping on your outside time because you want to find a balance to the muscles that you're utilizing. So I think it's important to utilize both. Here's some donkey kicks also, by the way. I don't want to let those go. So I did two variations, straight leg and a bent leg. One utilizing a little bit more of those glutes, and then what talking about here, and then when you kick the leg back, still glutes, but because it's a longer lever, other muscles that are supporting have to kick in a little bit more of that lower back, a little bit more of the hip flexor region. Just something I wanted to kind of add in there. But also, again, I think finding the balance between sport-specific movements and general physical preparedness movements as well. And that's pretty much it, y'all. Thumbs up. We're ready to rock. Later.